For over 50 years, the Kamen Rider franchise has brought us some incredibly original and unique seasons. As time has gone on, they have really thought outside of the box and come up with some mind-blowing concepts. But which Kamen Rider season is the most unique from all of the others? That's what we're going to find out today as we count down the top 10 most original and unique Kamen Rider seasons. And of course, let me know your picks in the comments. Number 10 is Kamen Rider Saber. This is a series where they henshin using books, and it has a ton of riders, many of which are introduced very early on into the series. The intro of this series is very whimsical, and it really sets the tone of a storybook land. But basically, if you're into fantasy, you're gonna dig this show. As I said, they henshin using books, and given that the name of the show is Saber, the swords that they wield are a recurring theme of this season. They also have blades coming out of their foreheads, kind of look like unicorns, but I don't hate it. Not a show that gets a ton of love, but if you like reading books, well, Kamen Rider Saber is for you.
Henshin.
Next up, at number 9 is Kamen Rider Oz. Eiji, our hero, meets Ankh, the disembodied arm of a greed, which is an ancient creature made up of core and cell metals, and Ankh gives Eiji the ability to henshin into Kamen Rider Oz. What I like about this show a lot is the metal concept. Eiji henshins using metals, and whenever he fights greeds, every time they're damaged, they spill out metals. The show is big on the metals. Also, Eiji himself kind of looks like a hobo, but he's extremely endearing. Everything about this show is just stylish. The red, green, and yellow of Eiji's suit is just extremely unique and striking. And if you've seen the show, then you already know that it has a style all its own. Number 8 is Kamen Rider Wizard, one of the absolute catchiest Rider theme songs that is sure to get stuck in your head. Kamen Rider Wizard is a wizard, as you would expect. He henshins using rings, where he will put the ring on his finger and then place his hand over his belt in order to henshin.
Flame! Freeze!
And he looks very unique, being that he has a tailcoat. It's really clear that they were going for a mage look, and I think they nailed that. Throughout the series, he encounters other magic users, and one of my absolute favorite second riders, Kamen Rider Beast, whose number one attribute I would describe as mayonnaise obsession, because this dude puts mayonnaise on everything. But I digress. This show is super enjoyable, and if you ever wanted to see what a mage would look like inside of Kamen Rider, this is your show. Number 7 is Kamen Rider Kiva. I pretty much rewatch this show every October around Halloween time because it is dark and gothic. I would describe the style as horror themed. We have darkness, we have bats, or technically, Kibats. We have Fangires, the enemy faction of this season. We have a building that's actually a dragon, and one of the absolute most unique things about this season, the fact that it takes place in 2 time periods concurrently, one being the present day of the 2000s, and the other being the 1980s. So a lot of times we'll see something happen in the 80s and be shown how it affects the present day, and this is really unique. Now that combination of things might seem a little strange, but it works really well. And if you're into campy gothic horror, you will dig Kamen Rider Kiva. Number 6 is Kamen Rider Force, a story about a Kamen Rider club inside of a high school where they travel to space. Kamen Rider Force himself looks like a rocket ship, and I think his look alone is enough to justify his placement on this list. And the whole high school thing is also an incredibly unique thing for Kamen Rider, because most of our main riders are working adults, so it's just kind of a nice change of pace. Number 5 is Kamen Rider Amazon. Our hero Daisuke was adopted by an Incan tribe and grew up as one with the land, hunting to survive. This show had a shorter run at only 24 episodes, and this was due in part to it being more violent than the other seasons. Kamen Rider Amazon's suit to me looks a lot like Punch and Kick Hopper from Kabuto, and this show would go on to be reimagined in 2016 with Kamen Rider Amazons, and this was to celebrate the 45th anniversary of the franchise. Like I said, this series is more violent than what you're probably used to with Kamen Rider, so if you watch it, you've been warned. Number 4 is Gaim. If you like fruit and you like dancing, well, this is the series for you. Oh, also Samurai. Can't forget about Samurai. Being somebody that is absolutely obsessed with Japanese history, specifically the shogunates and the Bushido, Kamen Rider Gaim just hits a really nice note. And of course, there's a lot of fruit here as well, being that when this series was released, it was at the height of the fruit ninja craze. And it's also about competing dance troupes. So those simple things right there should explain to you why this series is so unique. But you know, it also has a great story that I really enjoyed, and a ton of writers from the start of the show. And most of them look pretty awesome. I really like Gaim. It's one of my favorites, and it is unique as hell. Next up, we have Kamen Rider Geats. This is a show about a Kamen Rider battle royale that is overseen and run by people from the future that travel through time to either help or hinder the contestants of this show. I really like the premise because it's so different from other seasons, hence why it's on this list. We have a ton of riders here and a ton of forms. In fact, a lot of these riders swap forms from time to time throughout the season, and the dynamics between the characters change quite often, so it'll keep you interested and on your toes. Geats just hits different, man. Number 2 is X-Aid, a show about gaming doctors. Much like in a game, in order for the riders to acquire new forms, they have to level up. And there are noticeable visual changes whenever this happens. For example, X-Aid himself, when he first tensions, he's small and unimposing. He kind of looks like a pop vinyl. I'm a Kamen Rider. But then he levels up and he starts to look a little bit more like a traditional rider, although with it being X-Aid, he doesn't look like other riders really. They have kind of anime hair molded into their helmets, and this show uses some bright neon colors that haven't really been seen much in other series. We have Muteki Gamer, his final form, and he has dreads, or what resemble dreads, coming out of his helmet. A gold Kamen Rider with dreads. I love it. But you know, not everybody can make the list, so here's some honorable mentions. First up, we have W, or Double, whichever you prefer. This is a show about Philip and Shotaro, and they combine to form Kamen Rider W. It's a detective show, and one of my favorites. Another honorable mention we have is Build. In Build, the country of Japan is separated into 3, which is unique in and of itself, but this is a science and physics themed season, and that makes it pretty unique as well. And the #1 most unique Kamen Rider season is Kamen Rider Hibiki. This series uses themes and concepts that had not yet been seen within the franchise and haven't been seen since. It is Oni and musical instrument themed, but this show had a lot of instability in the production side. There were a lot of rewrites, changes to staffing, and the biggest one being the firing of Shigenori Taketera, the executive producer, due to low viewership, low toy sales, etc. But you know, when you watch the first half of the season, it feels a lot more like a standard Japanese drama than a Kamen Rider series. The theme song, while I enjoy it, has no lyrics and is a bit on the slower side. We have Hibiki's suit, which looks nothing like the suits from any other Rider series. In fact, he henshins using a tuning fork. And they never shout henshin while they're transforming, or even use a belt. All of the Riders' weapons are based on musical instruments, and it's very, very music focused. In fact, the beginning of the first episode is just music with no dialogue, for about 3 or 4 minutes. Like I said before, there was a staffing change about halfway through the series that changed the tone a little bit, and that in itself makes this show incredibly unique and definitely worthy of this spot here at #1. But you know guys, that's just my list. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, it would mean a ton to me if you would smack the shit out of that like button. As always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye!